When he heard of it, Ravana lamented, "My right hand is cut off." One of his sons reminded him, "Why should you despair? You have Brahma's gift of invincibility. You should not grieve." Indrajit told him, what have you to fear when I am alive?" Indrajit had the power to remain invisible and fight, and accounted for much destruction in the invaders' camp. He also created a figure resembling Sita, carried her in his chariot, took her before Rama's army, and killed her within their sight. This completely demoralized the monkeys, who are suspended who suspended their fight, crying, "Why should we fight when our goddess Sita is thus gone?" They were in a rut until Bhibhishana came to their rescue and rallied them again. Indrajit fell by Lakshmana's hand in the end. When he heard of his son's death, Ravana shed bitter tears and swore, "This is the time to kill that woman Sita, the cause of all this misery." A few encouraged the idea, but one of his counsels advised, "Don't defeat your own purpose and integrity by killing a woman. Let your anger scorch Rama and his brother. Gather all your armies and go and vanquish Rama and Lakshmana. You know you can, and then take Sita. Put your blessed armor and go forth." Chapter 12. Rama and Ravana in battle. Every moment news came to Ravana of texted disasters in his camp. One by one, most of his commanders were lost. No one who went forth with battle cries were heard of again. Cries and shouts and wails of widows and of warriors came over the chants and songs of triumph that his couriers arranged to keep up at a loud pitch in his assembly hall. Rama became restless and abruptly left the hall and went up on a tower from which he could obtain a full view of the city. He surveyed the scene below, but could not stand it. One who spent a lifetime in destruction now found the gory spectacle intolerable. Groans and wailings reached his ears with deadly clarity, and he noticed how the monkey hordes reveled in their bloody handiwork. This was too much for him. He felt a terrific rage rising within him, mixed with some admiration for Rama's valor. He told himself, "The time has come for me to act by myself again." He hurried down the steps of the tower, returned to his chamber, and prepared himself for the battle. He had a ritual bath and performed special prayers to gain the benediction of Siva. Down, Donned his battle dress, matchless armor, armlets, and crowns. He had on protective armor for every inch of his body. He girthed his sword belt and attached to his body his accoutrements. I have no idea. For protection and decoration. When he emerged from his chamber, his heroic appearance was breathtaking. He summoned his chariot, which could be drawn by horses or move on its own if the horses were hurt and killed. People stood aside when he came out of the palace and entered his chariot. "This is my resolve," he said to himself. "Either that woman Sita or my wife Mandodari will soon have cause to cry and roll in the dust in grief. Surely before this day is done, none of them will be a widow." The gods in heaven noticed Ravana's determined move and felt that Rama would need all the support they could muster. They requested Indra to set down his special chariot for Rama's use. When the chariot appeared at his camp, Rama was deeply impressed with the magnitude and brilliance of of the vehicle. How has this come to be here? He asked. Sir, the chariot answered, my name is Matali. I have the honor of being the charioteer of Indra. Brahma, the four faced god and the creator of the universe, and Shiva, whose power has emboldened Ravana now to challenge you, have commanded me to bring it here for your use. It can fly swifter than air over the obstacles over any mountain, sea, or sky, and will help you to emerge victorious in this battle. Rama reflected aloud. It may be that the Rakshasas have created this illusion for me. It may be a trap. I don't know how to view it. Whereupon Matali spoke convincingly to dispel the doubt in Rama's mind. Rama, still hesitant, though partially convinced, looked at Hanuman and Lakshmana and asked, what do you think of it? Both answered, we feel no doubt that this chariot is Indra's. It is not any illusory creation. Rama fastened his sword, slung two quivers full of rare arrows over his shoulders, and climbed into chariot. The beat of the war drums, the challenging cries of soldiers, the trumpets, and the rolling chariots speeding along to confront each other created a deafening mixture of noise. While Ravana has instructed his charioteer to speed ahead, Rama very gently ordered his chariot driver, Ravana in the in is in a rage. Let him perform all the antics he desires and exhaust himself until they then be calm. We don't have to hurry forward. Move slowly and calmly, and you must strictly follow all instructions. I will tell you when to drive faster. Ravama's assistant and one of his Swancest supporters, Maodara, the giant among giants in his physical appearance, begged Ravana, let me not be a mere spectator when you confront Rama. Let me have the honor of grappling with him. Permit me to attack Rama. Rama is my sole concern, Ravana replied. If you wish to engage yourself in a fight, you may fight his brother Lakshmana. Noticing Mahodara's purpose, Rama steered his chariot across his path in order to prevent Mahodara from reaching Lakshmana. Whereupon Mahodara ordered his chariot driver, now dash straight ahead directly into Rama's chariot. The charioteer, more practical minded, advised him, I would not go near Rama, let us keep away. But Mahodara, obstinate and intoxicated with warfare, made straight for Rama. He wanted to have the honor of direct encounter with Rama in spite of Ravana's advice, and for his honor he paid a heavy price, as it was a moment's work for Rama to destroy him and leave him lifeless and shapeless on the field. Noticing this, Ravana's anger mounted further. He commanded his driver, you will not slacken now, go. Many ominous signs were seen now. His bowstring suddenly snaps, the mountain shook, thunders rumbled in the sky, tears flowed from the horses' eyes, elephants with decorated foreheads moved along dejectedly. Ravana noticed them, hesitated only for a second, saying, I don't care. This mere mortal Rama is of no account, and these omens do not concern me at all. Meanwhile, Rama paused for a moment to consider his next step and suddenly turned towards the armies supporting Ravana, while stretched away to the horizon and which stretched away to the horizon and destroyed them. He felt this might be one way of saving Ravana. With his armies gone, it was possible that Ravana might have a change of heart, but it had only the effect of spurring Ravana on. He plunged forward and kept coming nearer Rama and his own doom. Rama's army cleared and made way for Ravana's chariot. Unable to stand the, the force of his approach, Rama blew his conch, and its shrill challenge reverberated through space. Following it, another conch called Panchajanya, which belonged to Mahavishnu, Rama's original form before his present incarnation, sounded of its own accord in answer to the challenge, agitated the universe and its vibrations. And then Matali picked up another conch, which was Indra's, and blew it. This was the signal indicating the commencement of actual battle. Presently, Ravana sent a shower of arrows on Rama and Rama's followers, unable to bear the sight of his body being stunned with arrows, averted their heads when the chariot horses of Ravana and Rama glared at each other in hostility, and the flags topping the chariots, Ravana's ensign of the Veena and Rama's with the whole universe on it, clashed, and one heard the stringing and tanging of bowstrings on both sides, empowering in volume all other sound. They followed a shower of arrows from Rama's own bow. Ravana stood a gazing at the chariot sent by Indra and swore, "These gods, instead of supporting me, have gone to support of this petty human being. I will teach them a lesson. He is not fit to be killed with my arrows, but I shall seize him and his chariot together and fling them into high heaven and dash them to destruction." Despite his oath, he still strung his bow and sent a shower of arrows at Rama, raining in thousands, but they were all invariably shattered and neutralized by the arrows from Rama's bow, which met arrow for arrow. Ultimately, Ravana, instead of using one bow, used 10 with 20 arms, multiplying his attack tenfold, but Rama stood unhurt. Ravana suddenly realized that he should change his tactics and ordered his charioteer to fly the chariot up to the sky. From there, he attacked and destroyed many of the monkey armies supporting Rama. Rama ordered Matali, "Go up in the air. Our young soldiers are being attacked from the sky. Follow Ravana and don't slacken." There, there followed an aerial pursuit at dizzying speed across the dome of the sky and the rim of the earth. Ravana's arrows came down like rain. He bent upon destroying everything in the world. But Rama's arrows diverted, broke, and neutralized Ravana's. Terror stricken, the gods watched this pursuit. Presently, Ravana's arrow struck Rama's horses and pierced the heart of Matali himself. The charioteer fell. Rama paused for a while in grief, undecided as to his next step, then recovered and resumed his offensive. At the moment, the divine eagle Garuda was seen perched on Rama's flagpost, and the gods who were watching felt that this could be an auspicious sign. After circling the globe several times, the dueling chariots returned, and the fight continued over Lanka. It was impossible to be very clear about the location of the battlefield, as the fight occurred here, there, and everywhere. Rama's arrows pierced Ravana's armor and made him wince. Ravana was so insensible to pain and impervious to attack that for him to wince was a good sign, and the gods hoped that this was a turn for the better. But at this moment, Ravana suddenly changed his tactics. Instead of merely shooting his arrows, which were powerful in themselves, he also invoked supernatural forces to create strange effects. He was adept in the use of various ashtras, which could be made dynamic with special incarnations. At this point, the fight became one of attack with supernatural powers and parrying of such an attack with other supernatural powers. Ravana realized that the mere aiming of shafts with 10 or 20 of his arms would have no avail because the mortal whom he had so contemptuously thought of destroying with a mere slight effort was proving formidable, and his arrows were beginning to pierce and cause pain. Among the Ashtras sent by Ravana, one was called Danda, a special gift from Shiva, capable of pursuing and pulverizing its target. When it came flaming along, the gods were struck with fear, but Rama's arrow neutralized it. Now Ravana said to himself, these are all petty weapons. I should go get down to proper business. And he invoked the one called Maya, a weapon which created illusions and confused the enemy. With proper incarnations and worship, he sent off his weapon and it created an illusion of reviving all armies and its leaders. Kumbhakarna and Indrajit and the others and bringing them back to the battlefield. Presently, Rama found all those who he thought were no more coming on with battle cries and surrounding him. Every man in the enemy's army was again up in arms. They seemed to fall on Rama with victorious cries. This was very confusing, and Rama asked Matali, whom he had by now revived, what is happening now? How are all these coming back? They were dead. Matali explained, in your original identity, you are the creator of illusions in the universe. Please know that Ravana has created phantoms to confuse you. If you make up your mind, you can dispel them immediately. Matali's explanation was a great help. Rama at once invoked a weapon called Gana, which means wisdom or perception. This was a very rare weapon, and he sent it forth. And all terrifying armies who seemed to have come on in such a great mass suddenly evaporated into air. Rama then stood and then shot an Astrara called Tama, whose nature was to create total darkness in all the worlds. The arrows came with the heads and exposing frightened eyes and fangs and fiery tongues. End to end, the earth was developed in total darkness, and the whole creation was paralyzed. This Ashtra also created a deluge of rain on one side, a rain of stones on the other, a hail showering down immediately, and a tornado sweeping the earth. Ravana was sure this would arrest Rama's enterprise, but Rama was able to meet it with what was called Shivashvara. He understood the nature of the phenomena and the cause of it and chose the appropriate ashwarta for counteracting it. I'm going to pause there.